final question or so. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Hoping to get your bird's eye view here. You signed the Paris Climate Agreement in 2015 with your granddaughter on your knee. Since then, a lot has happened. Not only as scientists have said that floods, droughts, hurricanes, wildfires, you name it, have got worse, but also we've lived through an administration here that has harbored climate skeptics and deniers. We've lived through populism. We've lived through alternate facts and post-truth. Would you say from when you signed that agreement in 2015 to now, are we or our world leaders in a worse situation or a better situation when it comes to the battle trying to convince people to fight against climate change?
Well, this may sound incongruous to you, and I'm sorry for that, but we're actually in both. We are in worse shape in that the melting is taking place faster, the fires are more frequent and bigger, the droughts have been longer and more pronounced, the extreme heat has been higher, and we are now losing maybe 10 million people a year, up from 5, to extreme heat every year. 15 million people a year we lose to the quality of air, which is not quality at all. It's air that is polluted by virtue of greenhouse gases. So the danger to us in not moving yet faster, which we know we must do and can do, is enormous. And every economic analysis will show you that it is far more expensive to not do things today than to do them. And we will pay down the road. We've had 15 $1 billion climate events during this past year. Before that, we had about $10 billion or so. I mean, it is getting bigger and worse in that regard because, you know, Mother Nature doesn't measure whose emissions they are or where they come from. It's the total emissions that have the impact. And the total emissions have gone up, despite the fact that we have set ambitious targets to be able to bring them down. Now that's the worst sort of side I've shown, that the looming possibility of greater catastrophe is greater today. But, and there is a significant but, and it's important, it's critical to us. More is happening. Many more countries are at the table. Much more effort is being made to transition than at any time in human history. And oil companies, gas companies are now investing in renewables and talking about not being an oil and gas company, but being an energy company. Now you have new technologies with maybe $1 trillion of venture capital is chasing those technologies. And we're seeing great advances in battery storage and direct air carbon capture and green hydrogen, blue hydrogen. And, you know, there's so many, in fusion even. I went out to California recently to learn what was happening, and I was struck by the scientists who, for all my time in the United States Senate, almost 30 years, they would always say to you, well, fusion's 30 years away. Every 10 years, 30 years away. They don't say that anymore. We're going to have a fusion prototype reactor in about 2 years, 3 years, that'll be working to see if we get proof of concept at a scale. And you're seeing many other things happen that, to me, say to us, we can win this battle. When the IEA tells us, if you do everything you said you're going to do in Glasgow, you could get the Earth's temperature down. We started at the possibility we were going to hit 2.5 degrees or 3.7 degrees. That's where we began. And if all of a sudden we have pledges on the table that could keep it at 1.8, and that's with only 65%, you bring the other percentages on board, we can go down to 1.6, whatever. That is enormous if we get there. Now, obviously, Ukraine has created a challenge with respect to the immediate ability of big economies like Germany and France, others, to be able to keep their economy moving. And because the gas is cut off, they've begrudgingly, not with great fervor, but they've said, we got to keep a few coal plants open in case. We have to keep a nuclear open in case. So some of their decisions are being adjusted, but they're determined Germany is now moving to 80% of all their power coming from renewables. That's incredible. A powerful country like that with all of its industry. Ford Motor Company and General Motors and other companies around the world have spent hundreds of billions of dollars retooling their plants. Why? Because they're going electric. And by 2035, that's all we're going to have in America, electric cars being manufactured, not on the road, but being sold in new cars. That's President Biden's goal. By 2035, he wants the power sector of America to be carbon-free. So if we accelerate these efforts, which is what technology and entrepreneurial activity help us to do, this is going to change even faster. And so that's where I draw enormous hope and some optimism, because I believe we can still make this happen. But we have to make the right decisions and implement those decisions. President Biden's passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, which will have significant tax credits and production tax credits, will direct industrial behavior. And by virtue of the money that goes through the Department of Energy that will go to our national laboratories, we will be pushing the curve of R&D and deployment more than at any time in our history. We're looking at a transition that is as big, if not bigger, I would say bigger, than the Industrial Revolution. We're going to change the way we provide energy. We're going to change the way we move. We're going to live, cleaner, hopefully, and believe me, safer. Because we don't have to send young people off to defend our energy interests in some other part of the world when we make it right here at home. So I'm excited about those possibilities, and I think the private sector is going to have a profound impact on our ability to solve this problem. Why? Because no country in the world has enough money to affect this transition. You have to get trillions of dollars in play. That's what the UN Finance Report says. Somewhere like $2.5 to $4.5 trillion every year for the next 30 years. Where's that coming from? Well, if we bring the private sector to the table, provide the right incentives, and do the right things, we can deploy trillions of dollars of investment in those new energy production facilities and the new transportation facilities, and the rest will be history. So on the one hand, on the other, and we have to make the right choices. Thank you all very much.